like the idea of homesteading, but you don't necessarily want to do it all alone, but you do want to live the sustainable lifestyle that comes along with it? Well, here at Heartwood Co-Housing, they're doing just that. They have created a unique housing development that is very focused on community, shared resources, and responsibilities. Today we're going to meet with Katie, who is the greenhouse team leader, and she's going to explain a little bit more about what they do here and how their growing dome ties into all of their sustainability efforts. So we are here at Heartwood Co-Housing's 33-foot growing dome, and I'm here with Katie, the garden team leader, and she's going to show us around the greenhouse today. Katie, do you know about how old the growing dome is?
Well, it's been here on our land for 24 years, but it was given to us used, many years before that. So I'm thinking it's probably 27 years old or so.
Wow, and you are still growing plenty of produce in there. I took a sneak peek and it's very full.
Yeah, we do, 52 weeks a year.
How many people does this growing dome feed?
Well, it depends. Not everybody in the community harvests. I would say absolutely for sure the 7 of us that do take care of it harvest quite a bit. And then I would say there's probably maybe another 10 families that probably harvest on a semi-regular basis. Yeah.
And there's about 24 houses here, but you guys are going to be expanding, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. There is 24. We are doing a phase 2, which is actually going to be all clustered around the dome, as the dome being the centerpiece. That's going to be 14 more homes that starts in 2025.
Wow, that'll be really cool to see. We'll have to come back and see everything coming together.
Absolutely.
Can we go inside and take a look?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, wow. You guys have this totally packed in with tomatoes and grapes.
Yeah. Yeah, we planted these grapes, maybe 5 years into having the dome. To provide shade a lot in the summer would be the primary reason. Of course, they're incredible. They're champagne grapes. They turn pink. They're super sweet. And we do kind of have to prune them a lot, otherwise they do take over. We have them trellised up. We have had a bear get in here once and really wreak havoc on the place, but we use a bear mat now. And so we haven't had that happen since.
I saw that. You'll have to give us a little bit of an explanation on how you built that. But you said these grapes were put in 5 years after the dome was built, approximately?
5 years after we put it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have them positioned on the south side, again, to provide shade for everything else that you have growing in here. So that's an awesome trick to share with people.
Yeah, it's sort of southwest. And of course, they're deciduous, so the leaves fall off in the late fall. And so then we have a lot more sun through the winter.
Do you guys heat the dome at all in the winter?
We don't. We just rely on how well the dome is planned by having the water tank and the fact that all these deciduous leaves come off. We get full sun all winter, and the water tank keeping the water warm helps keep the dome warm, and we seem to do great. We have produce 52 weeks a year.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you guys plant according to the season. So now you've got a lot of tomatoes, and I saw some peppers back there. What do you guys normally grow in the winter time?
Well, the tomatoes really last until some December or even January sometimes. And yeah, we go through a whole transition where we're pulling out those types of things. We have some cucumbers, basil, peppers, as you mentioned. And we pretty much go to greens and herbs in the winter.
Okay. But you still get greens for everybody all year long.
Yeah. Kale, chard, all kinds of lettuce, huge crops of cilantro, parsley, all kinds of collards, cabbages, things like that.
Amazing. And I see you guys are using your pond to kind of start your seeds above. Can you explain a little bit about your seed starting method and how you're doing that?
Yeah, we use these wooden boxes. They're slatted on the bottom. They have really good drainage. But there's a fair amount of soil in them, so they don't tend to dry out too quickly. But there's a lot of air and there's a lot of drainage. We do it up here primarily because we are trying to avoid any rodents, and we can plant a lot at one time and then in a small space. And then you can move them out into, 3 or 4 inch pots as you get closer to like the summer season where you're planting tomatoes and things, seeding tomatoes like in even late February or March, and peppers and things of that nature. And then we just move them out of the boxes into pots. Or if it's mostly greens, a lot of times they go right from the box into the beds or outside.
Okay, so you do kind of use this as like a little nursery space to start seeds for your outside garden as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We grow for all of our outdoor beds, as well as we have a big garden down in our pasture that has a high tunnel. We grow for them as well as personal gardens, and even sometimes friends and that don't even live here, just because if we have a lot of extra, we just share the wealth.
Yeah, share with everybody. So your pond, do you have any fish in here?
Yeah, we have just your typical goldfish, and they do great. Obviously, if we just had standing water, we would be breeding mosquitoes and all types of insects. The fish keep that from happening, and then they poop in the water, and usually at least once or twice a year we use a pump and pump out some of the waste at the bottom as really rich fertilizer.
Okay. And I saw you guys have some chickens outside. How do those tie in with the greenhouse and everything you're doing?
Yeah, I think it's a super synergistic thing to have chickens near the greenhouse, because we are able to feed them greens and fruit, tomatoes, peppers, so anything that's sort of unappetizing for a human, to them every single day, all through the winter. So they're getting, produce and greens every day, in January, February, March, things like that. So I think it's great for them. And they also provide us the manure. So we have big compost bins outside that we are, of course, putting a lot of the waste in here that the chickens wouldn't eat, like a nightshade vine, into those compost bins, leaves. There's also household kitchen waste from the community, and then their manure as well. So we do a lot of composting, and I think it's just a super synergistic thing to have them here for their benefit and ours.
Yeah, they are part of the system, so they definitely help out with everything. Yeah. So I noticed you have some interesting cages. Are these homemade?
Yes.
So these are like cattle panel, is that right?
I would call it goat fencing.
Okay.
I think is maybe what it's referred to. Yeah, we have a lot of different cages. Some of them were like originally for maybe preventing deer from scratching on trees or biting at trees. But yeah, we do a lot of making stuff by scratch here.
Yeah, using what you have.
Yeah.
These look a lot sturdier than my tomato cages, so I might have to steal this idea from you.
Yeah.
How many varieties of tomatoes do you have in here right now? Do you know?
That's a good question. I would say there's likely maybe 10 to 12. Yeah. And most of them are heirloom varieties. We grow everything organic here, and I try to get varieties that are maybe not as hybridized and things like that, and just the really interesting ones that are like, the black tomatoes or the green striped tomatoes. We have some Amish varieties and things like that.
Awesome. Can you show me those black striped tomatoes? Those sound really cool.
Well, let's see.
You have to go through the
This
jungle.
is called an indigo. This is the indigo apple slicer. So they get kind of purple, and then they get more red when they're ripe. There's the bumblebee striped. I think they might be over there. We have some, larger yellows, and then one's called a German striped tomato. Black crims, Cherokee purples.
Lots of
They're
variety.
all around, and some of them are outside too. Yeah, Romas.
Nice.
Yep.
So you said there's 7 people that help you maintain the greenhouse throughout the week. How do you guys kind of keep track of different responsibilities, or if somebody notices something that needs to be worked on? What's your process for kind of keeping up with the greenhouse?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have this logbook over here. It's one of our main ways of communicating. We send text messages, and we have an email chat as well, but I like to have the book right here in the greenhouse when people get here in the morning and they can see what's been done through the week. I usually encourage everybody to be the first thing you do is look back and see what people did, or if they planted something new, or if there's a concern about possibly an insect or any kind of other thing going on in the greenhouse, some kind of like fungus or disease state or anything, but just also reminds people of the things that, you know, need to be done or could be done. Like I keep a to-do list in here. You know, we let people know if we got a mouse or if we, you know, what we trimmed up, if we planted something new. And then we just encourage everybody to write in the book. Sometimes somebody doesn't always have as much time in the morning and they might just say, hey, I came in, I watered, you know, the starts on the fish tank and a few of the small pots and maybe my beds that I'm responsible for deep water, but I didn't do anything else. And so the next person kind of knows, well, I probably should water a little more deeply. Or of course it was like, oh, it rained really heavy last night. You don't need to water the outside beds, things like that. And we also, yeah, we have a deep water schedule. So all 7 of us are responsible for maybe like 4 to 6 beds on a certain day. And or somebody's responsible for all these barrels. And so even if you have someone filling in for you, it's not like it's the person that is responsible. It's like Mondays is responsible from bed 10 to 14, you know, so if you're filling in on Mondays, you know, those are your deep water days.
Yeah, I think that number system that you guys have is really helpful for this type of a community garden where there are different people doing different things on different days, just to kind of keep things in line and on track. And that way, you know, bed 7 got watered or bed 9 has aphids or something along those lines.
Yep. And sometimes people are confused about like what's a weed and what isn't, or they'll ask a question, what is that thing in bed 9? Or, you know, and we, like I said, we do texting as well. But I think I like the book. I like, you know, for people to really sit down when they're about to leave and just say what they did or if they have any concerns or want to highlight something.
Yeah, I've started keeping, I call it a garden journal, but I think it's a good practice even just for a single person that's using their garden, just to be able to remember all of the different things.
It's good. Occasionally I put the date just to go back and refer and be like, when did I start those last year and they did so well, or, you know, anything like that. It's good to keep a journal.
And so how do people know when they can harvest things? Do community members just come in and harvest on their own, or do you guys do a big harvest and share it at the community house? How does that work?
You know, it's a little of both. I mean, really, anybody can come in and harvest as long as they've been what we call, like they've just been oriented. They have to have an orientation. We try to encourage kids not coming in here alone, just because like grapes can fall all over the floor. You know, there's improper harvesting techniques, but in general, we give each person an orientation on proper harvesting techniques. And then, you know, people can come and harvest when they like. Sometimes we have, you know, really prolific squash or greens at certain times, and one of us will either take them over and put them on the common house bench, or sometimes just say, hey, we harvested a lot of greens or whatever, they're in the common house fridge. Occasionally, I'll just go over and my immediate neighbors, I'll just be like, do you need any of this? You know, my mother lives here as well, so I sometimes take things down to her, or just give her a text and say, there's a lot of beans to be harvested over there, you know. So yeah, we share it all kinds of ways like that.
And do you guys share with the larger community at all of Bayfield?
Yeah, at times when we have a lot of produce in the summer particularly, we have a big garden down in our pastures too. We will take harvests over to Pine River Shares, which is kind of a charity food bank, helping people out kind of thing.
Yeah, they also have a 33-foot dome, so it's cool to see how the dome owners are working together.
Yes.
And this board right here, this has some of the things that can be harvested.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, it's not maybe so much for all of us that work here, but a little bit more for the larger community, just to say what maybe is ready to harvest. Some people aren't as aware of things when they're ripe or ready, as well as just if we're having a certain issue, like right now we're trying to keep our screen door closed more often, just because we've had a little bit of cabbage worms and they come in on these cabbage worm moths.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're just communicating on the board as well.
Very cool. Well, let's go outside so you can show me this bear mat you were alluding to. So this is the bear mat that you were speaking about, right?
Yeah.
So how does this work?
Well, it's a simple piece of plywood with screws all put into it, and we put it down on the ground right in front, right in this foyer of the dome. Anytime somebody leaves the greenhouse, in, I would say, the spring, fall, and summer. We put it away and usually rehabilitate it in the winter because it can get kind of messed up. But yeah, it's worked. We did have a bear in here many years ago that really created a lot of havoc, and this was our solution, and it's worked perfect ever since.
Yeah,
It's dangerous, however. We have to tell, that's one of the main things I tell people is, know that we have a bear mat, yeah.
I bet it also works for the other critters like skunks and raccoons and other things that may be interested in all the goodies that you have in there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a deterrent to a fair amount of animals, yeah.
The residents of Heartwood have been very resourceful with different materials that they've used in the greenhouse, as well as coming up with some DIY techniques to help them solve unique problems that they face. For example, they've added a mesh screening to their upper vents to help keep the wasps out. And the wasps were a problem due to all of these lovely grapes that they have. So by adding that mesh, they're keeping the wasps away, and that way they get to eat the grapes for themselves. They have done some other maintenance throughout the years to help keep the growing dome up and running for as long as they have. They have replaced some various siding panels, specifically on the north side where the snow tends to accumulate. And you may notice some key differences between this dome and a modern growing dome. Primarily being this entryway is recessed. We have now bumped the door out so that it doesn't impede so much on your growing space. And we have included a standard 24-inch foundation wall with all of our kits. And here they have a 16-inch foundation wall. Thank you for having us out here, Katie. It's been a pleasure. Overall, what is your kind of takeaway from operating the growing dome and working within the community?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's the largest dome. I mean, at least when we bought it, and so it's a really fun experience to work with other people, and I think it helps with not having burnout. You know, each of us take a day of the week. If I was doing this 7 days a week, it might be a little bit more challenging to keep it going 365 days a year. But I love that we have so much productivity. We work together. We have different skill sets that we can bring to the dome. We are able to delegate certain areas of responsibility. I think it just keeps it feeling more fun, more synergistic, and you know, I just love the collaboration of ideas as well.
I'm excited to see what the larger project is of expanding and how many more community members that you'll be able to bring in and help in the gardens and feed from all of the wonderful produce that you're growing here.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I'm excited that the dome will sort of be the centerpiece of this new cluster, as we would call it. And yeah, come back. I'm sure it'll be interesting during construction, and then of course once it's built, and even a few years later when we have like nice landscaping and things as well, and maybe even bigger gardens outside.
Yeah, we'll have to do a follow-up for sure.
Okay, thanks, Shelby.
Thank you.